This week's episode is brought to you by Crown Haven Wealth Advisors. Your retirement reimagined. Coming up today on RetireSHIELD TV.
We help people understand where they're at on the field to begin with, because a lot of the reason that folks try to go for the top prize with their retirement funds, they want to just keep growing it, hit home run, is because they don't even understand where they're at on the field, thinking I need to get to $5 million in retirement savings. Because if I don't, I won't have enough money. Meanwhile, they've never had a retirement plan that's been put together by a team of professionals that clearly explains to them exactly how they can get there with what they already have. Putting yourself in control of the outcome is the most liberating thing in the world, because once you do that, you have the ability to quite literally pursue any version of your own happiness that you look to pursue.
Knowing people and building trust. Get on the right path to achieve your retirement goals with Casey Marx and the team at Crown Haven Wealth Advisors. Understand the process and challenges of retirement planning. Discover the keys to a successful retirement.
Hello and welcome to RetireSHIELD TV. I'm consumer advocate Morgan Patrick, and as always, I am joined by the founder and CEO of Crown Haven Wealth Advisors and creator of the RetireSHIELD process, Casey Marx. Casey is not only the author of Baby Boomer Retirement Boot Camp, he is also a retirement income certified professional as well as a certified financial fiduciary. It is good to see you, Casey.
It's good to see you too, Morgan.
So today we are going to be discussing, the once popular game show, Deal or No Deal. So Casey, what does this guessing-based game show have to do with retirement?
Well, if people remember the concept of the game Deal or No Deal, I think it has a lot to do with retirement. And how Deal or No Deal worked, and it was a show that was hosted by Howie Mandel for a number of years, is at the beginning of the game, a contestant would choose a briefcase out of a number of briefcases, and over time they would have to select additional briefcases, hoping that the briefcase they held the $1 million prize. Now, it was a process of elimination, and after every round, they'd get a phone call from the banker, and the banker would offer them a probability-based number. And the choice was, do I take the deal from the banker, or do I think that the number in my briefcase is higher than the deal that I'm being offered? When it comes to retirement savings, this is a lot like how people are thinking. They've got this certain amount of assets that are accumulated, and if you have your money in the world's largest casino, Wall Street, the stock market, they're hoping that that number that they're going to end up inside of their briefcase is greater than the number of their account value that they already have. But that's based on the guessing game. That's based on chance. And I think it's very applicable to the discussion of retirement planning.
Well, and how many people are telling you take the deal?
And that's the other thing to state. Inevitably, there's always a family member or a friend that's sitting there, and the offers start to get pretty good. And there's this pain-pleasure paradigm that exists where you see folks want to take the deal, but there's something inside of them that gets a little bit greedy, and they go, I was just offered $520,000. I could get $1 million. And that's called the appeal to probability, where we think that something possible is probable. And you've always got a family member going, we know it's possible, but look at what you already have in your hand. Take what you already have in your hand. And inevitably what happens, if you look at the history of that show, over the entire history of its airing, which was multiple years, there were only 2 contestants that ever won the top prize. That's an insane figure. So that means all of those people that were pushing those limits, trying to get to the $1 million, if you look at the statistical probability of hitting that, very low probability. And a lot of those folks would have been better off selecting the deal.
Right.
So what we do at our firm is we help people understand where they're at on the field to begin with, because a lot of the reason that folks try to go for the top prize with their retirement funds, they want to just keep growing it, hit home runs, is because they don't even understand where they're at on the field. They've been listening to the fake news for a number of years thinking, I need to get to $5 million in retirement savings, or I need to get to $3 million in retirement savings, or whatever it is, because if I don't, I won't have enough money. Meanwhile, they've never had a retirement plan that's been put together by a team of professionals that clearly explains to them exactly how they can get there with what they already have.
I mean, I think about what you said. There's so many people out there that have it, but they don't know where they are in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
And identifying where you are and then able to plan from that point to get you to that retirement you want.
Exactly, and what we're talking about is optics. And if you don't have optics, imagine, so when I give talks to other business owners, because I talk to other business owners on a pretty regular basis too, when I give talks to other business owners, one of the best examples I use is I put up a scoreboard for a football game. And I say, can everybody read this? And then I put up a scoreboard for a basketball game. And I go, can everybody read this? And then I put up a scoreboard for a cricket match. And we're in the United States. And most people can't read it. So if you don't know where you're at on the field, if you don't know what the numbers mean, how do you know where you're going to go? And what most people are doing is they're looking at their retirement accounts, and at best, let's say you've got a 401k plan, only recently, in maybe the last 5 to 10 years, you've got some of these retirement plan providers saying you could have this much amount of money in retirement. Well, guess what? Those are designed, number one, they're hypothetical.
Right.
Number two, they're designed to make you want to save more because that's the industry. So people look at that and they go, okay, well, maybe I can take $2,000 a month out of my $1 million portfolio, and they know that's not going to cut the mustard. Meanwhile, that same $1 million, if it were used in the proper way, could create significantly more for them, right? So you need to understand where you're at on the field,
right,
in order to move forward in a constructive way for yourself.
We use the term casino, Wall Street casino. We use it often.
Yeah.
That's kind of a term that might scare a few people because if you've got a majority of your portfolio hanging out in the Wall Street casino, you could be in trouble. But you guys, your team, you offer protection.
Yes, and that's our whole game plan, is to offer protection against these downturns, because in retirement we need our money. But the reason we use the term casino, and some people might laugh at that, Wall Street is the largest form of legalized gambling in existence. That's literally what's happening. And folks think that, people are sitting behind 3 computer screens and predicting the future with multiple charts and graphs. There's a lot of analysis being done, but at the end of the day, what's happening is a game of liar's poker. Somebody is sitting here saying this asset is worth this. Somebody else is sitting over here saying this asset is worth this. And whoever flinches first wins, or loses rather.
Right.
Right? That's all that's happening, and it's happening with lots of money, and then everybody else is along for the ride. So the question is, do you want to be along for the ride while you've got multi-billion-dollar entities out there essentially gambling with each other?
Right.
And your retirement is on the line? I wouldn't want to do that.
And if the wind blows, things change.
Yes.
And if you're not allocated the right way,
your retirement's done.
Big trouble.
It's over. So yeah, at our firm, 100%, we're using tools that guarantee the safety of your principal for the income that you're going to need when you retire. Because even if you're not thinking about it that way yet, I promise you, and we get questions from the audience pretty regularly here, a lot of those questions are folks that just retired and they've realized that now they need to start drawing income from this. And when the market drops 20%, then they've got a very difficult choice to make. Well, if I do basic math, my money's not going to last as long if I take the same amount of income, or I take significantly less income, which reduces my standard of living, or in a worst case scenario, I'm going back to work. Nobody wants to do that.
No, they don't.
So we want to set up a plan to avoid all of that.
The tools we talk about, they're in the RetireSHIELD, and we're about to take a quick break. But if you want your own personalized RetireSHIELD plan or a free copy of Casey's book, Baby Boomer Retirement Boot Camp, make sure to call the number that is on your screen right now. Call that number. And again, you'll talk with one of our representatives. You can also visit the website, very easy to remember, RetireSHIELD.tv. That's RetireSHIELD.tv.
Do Do you know how much you're paying in fees or commissions with your current plan or advisor? What about unnecessary risk or future tax implications? Sit down with a fiduciary advisor at Crown Haven that can help you understand important concepts and so you can make the best decisions for yourself moving forward. We may even be able to answer questions you didn't even know needed to be asked. Take advantage of our complimentary portfolio diagnostic by calling Casey and his team of fiduciary advisors at Crown Haven today.
Welcome back to RetireSHIELD TV. I'm consumer advocate Morgan Patrick, and as always, I am joined by the founder and CEO of Crown Haven Wealth Advisors and creator of the RetireSHIELD process, Casey Marx. Casey is a retirement income certified professional as well as a certified financial fiduciary. Now, before the break, Casey, you were discussing the sad fact that a lot of people out there are leaving their retirement savings to chance and how, unfortunately, that can result in life-changing losses. Now, that being said, through a 5-step RetireSHIELD process, all of our viewers have access to a solution that can secure their retirement savings.
Yes, they do. And we highly recommend that anybody out there feeling uncertain about their retirement plan, if they don't have a retirement plan, if they have an advisor that's not providing them a retirement plan, if they're managing this themselves, they reach out to us. Because, when we talk about the concept of a deal or a no deal, most people are in a situation right now where they have enough money in their figurative briefcase that they can create the retirement of their dreams already. And the only reason they're trying to create more and more and more is because of a fear that they're going to run out of money. When in actuality, we have tools that, when implemented properly, can create enough income so that you can enjoy all of the things that you'd like to enjoy in retirement and then some. And it really gets back to a question that I ask my clients pretty regularly: what's the definition of insanity? And the definition of insanity is doing something over and over and over and expecting a different result. And when we think about how we are treated as a result of being exposed to the marketplace, it's insane to keep money that we know we're going to need to enjoy our lifestyles in retirement exposed to continual losses and then pay someone else the privilege of a fee so that we can enjoy that roller coaster. It's insanity. And we're trying to stop the insanity at Crown Haven with our RetireSHIELD planning. The reason why we find so many people are still on this roller coaster is because they're being fed what amounts to propaganda from multiple sources. It's from the media, which are being paid indirectly by the advertisers of all of these firms that want to continually manage your money and charge a fee. It's by the advisor who has a vested interest in keeping your money at risk to charge you a fee for that privilege. It's by friends and family, which are doing the same thing as you, because retirement planning is honestly a pretty nascent industry. It's only been around for about 20 years because pensions were systematically dismantled about 50 to 60 years ago and have been in the process of being dismantled since then. So, and common knowledge takes a while to catch up. But the reason this is all important is because, and we had Wade Pfau, PhD, on one of our previous shows, he talks about sequence of returns risk, which is a very real thing. When you're in the accumulation stage and you're growing your money, you have the luxury of being able to ride it out, even if that might not be the best way to do it. In other words, you experience a 20% loss, you're 45 years old, you're still contributing to your 401k plan and you're still earning income from employment. And then common knowledge says, hey, have 6 months of money over here in an emergency fund in case you lose your job. Well, as soon as you retire, now that pile of money that you got in your 401k has to create replacement income. And if that 20% loss happens now, you have to actualize that loss. So imagine you've got, $1 million portfolio or a $500,000 portfolio, you lose 20%, you're down $100,000. You need to take income now, and that income is going to further erode what you've saved, which is going to make your money last a lot shorter than had you had it protected. It's extremely difficult to make up losses. And that is before we even get into buying power. Is inflation going to impact you? Taxation. If you've been saving in a 401k, more than likely you're paying income taxes when you take money out. So retirement planning, doing it the proper way, is extremely important. And the question most folks should be asking themselves is if they're insuring what amounts to be their largest asset against all of the time and energy that they've put into saving it in the first place. I've never met anybody that makes sacrifices, that wants to make a sacrifice, both in time and energy to save, and then the sacrifice of not spending that money to maybe do things that they wanted to do over all of those years, to then eat a loss later, which then directly affects their standard of living at a later date. The entire reason we save is so that, we're taking a little bit from ourselves now so we can enjoy a better future. Well, then if you take a loss, when that happens, you are not only going to have a worse quality of life, but it's essentially looking back at your prior self and saying, oops, sorry, your intentions got screwed up. That's a terrible thing to do to yourself. So how we solve this for our clients is we use a 3-bucket approach, and we make sure you have enough money in emergency funds. And then from an income standpoint, we use tools where I want you to imagine that you're on a roller coaster and you're going up. It's the first part of the roller coaster. And
click, 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 click. You're going up.
Yeah, you're hearing that click sound. That's the sound of an annual reset. So every single time you earn interest, that interest is locked in. It can never be lost to future market downturns, to anything. And so these tools are incredibly powerful. If you earn 10%, your $100,000 just turned into $110,000. That's not at risk. It is now insured. You can then turn around and take a 5% withdrawal from that, and you're still going to have more than your principal, which is then going to compound again, and you're going to click, click, click up. And then if the market falls off the face of the earth, you're completely guaranteed to be safe. And guess what? When the market starts coming back again, you start at the bottom, but your money is up here. And so you start clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking from a much higher spot. It's extremely valuable.
You think about just the importance of having a plan. There's so many out there that sit on a 401k, sit on a portfolio, and they feel like, hey, I'm good for retirement. But folks, if you're in a 401k, you're in that Wall Street casino we talk about, and you got to be aware of that.
Well, and a lot of folks, they take the stance of an ostrich. They put their head in the sand.
Yes, they do.
They do not want to look at this because they're afraid. And I understand. My mom was afraid. She didn't want to look at her portfolio back when I was a young man, and I would watch her do the same thing. People don't like to look at this stuff. But what I would argue is that putting yourself in control of the outcome is the most liberating thing in the world. Because once you do that, you have the ability to quite literally pursue any version of your own happiness that you look to pursue.
It's the ease of mind you talk about.
Yes.
Well, with that, we are about to take a quick break, but before we do, I wanted to remind you to join the thousands of Hoosiers that have already shielded their retirement with a personalized RetireSHIELD plan. Our lines are now open, so call the number on your screen right now and talk with one of our representatives, or you can visit our website, RetireSHIELD.tv, for your own personalized RetireSHIELD plan or a free copy of Casey's book, Baby Boomer Retirement Boot Camp.
Do you hear that? That's me enjoying my retirement, traveling around the world to play golf where I want, when I want, with whomever I want. Because years ago, I rolled over my IRA with the help of the local independent and trusted fiduciary team of advisors at Crown Haven.
Welcome back to RetireSHIELD TV. I'm consumer advocate Morgan Patrick, and as always, I am joined by the founder and CEO of Crown Haven Wealth Advisors and creator of the RetireSHIELD process, Casey Marx. Casey is a retirement income certified professional as well as a certified financial fiduciary. So prior to the intermission, Casey, you were talking about the unfortunate reality that many individuals are gambling with their retirement savings, which can lead to devastating consequences. However, thanks to the 5-step RetireSHIELD program, all of our viewers have access to a solution that can protect their retirement savings. It's time for some questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so RetireSHIELD TV viewer questions. And remember, you can ask Casey your retirement questions by going to retireshield.tv and filling out the TV question form. First question up is from Susan. She's in Indy, and here's the question. I am 5 years away from retirement and believe that I have not saved enough. My savings alone will not get me to where I need to be. So I feel like I must take high risk with my investment accounts to kind of make up the difference. Is this the right strategy?
Susan, I have to tell you, this is a very common feeling for many folks out there, and they're looking at, kind of the end goal of trying to get to a point where they can retire. They're looking at what they've been told over the course of maybe the last 20, 30, 40 years, a particular number that they should have in their retirement account, and they just simply feel like they don't have enough. So therefore, the conclusion that they draw is that they must be taking excess risk in order to achieve a higher return so that they can boost their retirement savings prior to retirement. What I would say is that it's actually the inverse is true. It's not always a higher amount of volatility and risk equates to a higher return. It's actually, if you have less risk and you're going forward in a more productive way, your money will grow faster. That's because you're eliminating risk of loss, you're eliminating cost associated with that, and it's modern day tortoise versus the hare. So what I would say is that it's very important, number one, that you understand whether or not you have enough to begin with, because you're saying you're not sure. You have to get with a retirement planner, a true retirement planner that has a specialty in creating these plans for folks like Crown Haven, so that we can show you, and for most people, they don't think they have enough. We're able to show them that in fact they do have enough and that they don't need to be taking risk. So I would recommend you reach out to us. Somebody will set you up with a time on my calendar. I'll get to know you. We'll talk exactly about what you're trying to accomplish, and I'll show you the data, and we'll let you know exactly how to get where you want to go.
Yeah, figure it out. Know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And then you move forward.
Yes.
All right, David and Carmel, here's the question. I am 6 months from retiring, and the last decision I have to make is whether or not to take a pension drop or lump sum. Now, my defined benefit plan, what would you suggest? It feels kind of like a gamble on taking the lump sum versus, say, a guaranteed income.
David, that's a fantastic question, and this is something that a lot of folks run into that are lucky enough to still have pensions. When it comes to taking the guaranteed income from the pension, what that is reliant on is the solvency of that pension system, and also most of the time the guaranteed income from that pension won't be inflation adjusted. When it comes to taking the lump sum, what that is reliant upon is that wherever you put that lump sum, it doesn't lose 20, 30% of its value overnight, because in a lot of cases that would be worse than taking the non-inflation adjusted guaranteed income. What's most important is that you sit down with a professional that's able to analyze what the best solution for you would be at a very basic level, looking at, is the guaranteed income component worth it to take that versus the lump sum, or do you have an alternate path that you can take with the lump sum that both protects your money and can grow it at a better rate of return to create higher income in a guaranteed way than what the pension is offering? We do this on a daily basis for our clients that are interested in this type of help. We can do that analysis very easily. We have third-party systems that we pay a lot of money for to be able to provide this value to our clients. So I'd recommend you reach out to us. We'll sit down, we'll do that, and then you'll have the clarity that you're looking for.
Clarity so key in retirement. Next question up, Linda in Fishers. Here's the question for you, Casey. Both of my parents did not live past 70 years old. I just turned 62 and I want to maximize the amount of Social Security income that I can get due to being qualified to take it right now. Now this is, is this the right thought is my question, and should I choose another process?
Linda, I understand where you're coming from. When we think about Social Security, one of the things we first take into consideration is our own mortality. The truth is that it's a very personalized decision to make, and there's a number of different types of analysis that we can do on your Social Security to determine whether or not it is right for you to take at 62 or to take it later. There are a lot of variables that go into the proper decision point for Social Security. One of the thought processes, though, is your own mortality and what that family history looks like. You got to remember that when the Social Security Department is looking at how much they're willing to pay folks, they're taking the entire population and that mortality into consideration. So having knowledge of your own mortality is helpful. What I wouldn't want you to do, however, though, is undershoot what you could possibly receive. So that's a conversation that we're more than happy to have with you in greater detail, and also determine what other sources of income you have to augment that, because nobody should be looking at just Social Security in order to create an income plan for themselves in retirement.
I mean, it's such a key part of it. I mean, we focus on Social Security, and back in the day it was considered kind of retirement planning.
Yes.
But now it's a pillar, it's
Yes.
a piece of what you have, but you really need to kind of map it out and see how it fits into the rest of your portfolio.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the academia surrounding Social Security, and really the reason it was created in the first place, it was meant to augment pensions. It was never meant to be replacement income. So Social Security is kind of like the icing on the cake. The unfortunate reality is this experiment that we did with defined contribution plans, 401ks, et cetera, we found that over time, people didn't contribute to these in the way that society really expected them to, or not society, but the professionals that developed them expected society to contribute to them. So there's this consequently huge income gap where people are looking at Social Security as one of the major ways that they can create income in retirement. For those folks that have saved on their own in 401ks, to your point, Morgan, Social Security is one of those pillars, and if you kind of look at it as a three-legged stool, one of those legs of that stool has been kicked out, the pension. So now it's Social Security and your savings, and those two legs need to hold the stool up. So it's very important that we maximize both Social Security and your own investments from an income standpoint to ensure that you maintain your quality of life in retirement.
Have a plan and make sure that plan has a shield. Well, that's all the time we have today. We'll be back next week, but if you are looking for peace of mind in your retirement, do not wait. Remember, our lines are open 24/7, so call the number on our screen right now. You can also visit RetireSHIELD.tv for your free copy of Casey's book, Baby Boomer Retirement Boot Camp, or to have a personalized RetireSHIELD plan created for you by Casey and his talented team of advisors.